Giddy up. Welcome back to Dr. BeeWell, the #1 cannabis podcast in the world. I'm your host, Steve Ivanovsky. On today's episode of DBW, we have a special guest, Mark Quinn, a cannabis professional who is here to share his knowledge and expertise with us. Mark has been working in the cannabis industry for almost a decade and has a wealth of experience in all aspects of the industry, from cultivation to distribution. He is passionate about educating people on the benefits of cannabis and helping break down the stigma surrounding the plant. Mark is also a health nut who's always trying to find the best ways to optimize his experience here on planet Earth. So whether you are a longtime cannabis user or someone who is new to the plant, this episode is sure to be both informative and engaging. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from one of the industry's leading professionals, the CEO of Mark's Organix, Mark Quinn. What's up, brother?
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me today.
You know it, man. You know it. I just wanted to, say thanks for coming on the show today. I've been going to, just a quick story on Mark from my background. I moved to Portsmouth in 2015, and in 2016 might have been 2017. I'm sure Mark will be able to correct me pretty quickly. The caregiving situation in Maine started to open itself up. And so I was, looking to get some cannabis. I had my medical card. So there was mechanisms there where you could find these caregivers, and I hit up Mark, from Mark's Organix. I found it on Weeds Maps, and I saw Mark. He said, meet me at the KTP, the Kittery Trading Post. We went over there. I bought some concentrate from him. It was great, and and then for quite a while, that's how I was getting my cannabis. It quickly, Mark will tell the story, I'm sure, but it quickly evolved into something else where it was Mark, and then it wasn't Mark, and then it was it was this beautiful store, and so I'm sure we'll get into all that. And I'm really interested in learning about how Mark got to that point. In 2017 when he when we first met, and he made that first transaction. But so that's kind of my question, brother. To get us started, tell us who is Mark Quinn? What was he doing before he started Mark's Organix?
Well, I've been in the cannabis industry, like you said. Started a delivery service around 2015, but prior to that, I had an organic landscaping company, and we did organic turf management. So we did a lot of soil testing. We educated a lot of people on the seacoast why not to use chemical fertilizers, and tried to interest them on more natural ways of taking care of pests and weeds and situations like that. We had a lot of customers ask us, how can we get rid of our weeds in our garden? Can you give us something to spray? And I always thought that was really funny. I would say, no, I can't. You're just going to have to get on your hands and knees and pull the weeds like people have been doing for thousands of years. There's no easy chemical to spray down that's not going to poison your soil food web. So I spent probably 18 or 19 years educating people on why not to use the chemicals that are so vast in what you see in the media today, the Scots and all these different fertilizers and pesticides. And so it was a long time coming, me getting into the organic cannabis industry. I was growing that while I was landscaping, but it never really turned into a business, a real business, until I started a delivery service. And thankfully, Weed Maps let me do that and advertise for that in 2015. And it all started with people coming to my house. And sometimes my wife would answer the door wondering who the hell that was. And then I'd have to go into my pantry where I kept, a couple pounds of weed and get a couple edibles out and, make sure that the patients that were coming to my front door to see me, they weren't seeing my daughter or my family or anything. So thankfully, I got a couple vehicles, and I was able to start delivering that elsewhere. So they weren't coming to my family's house. And so that's really where it all started. So it started in my pantry, then it moved to my garage, then it moved to a warehouse, then it moved back to a new garage on my other property. And then finally, we got approved by the town for a storefront, which was amazing. January 1st, 2020.
And where is that storefront?
It's in Kittery, Maine on State Road.
And where is Kittery Road in Maine? How close is that to the New Hampshire border?
That's very close to the border. I'd say it's less than 5 minutes, which was an ideal location because of a majority of our patients are coming from out of state, although we do cater to in-state, of course. But yeah, a lot of out-of-state patients are coming to our store. I think it's because of the prices and less taxes and variety of
Yeah,
stuff.
I think that's super interesting. I think it's something we can definitely, we can get into later in the show. I want to talk a little bit, more about that background. I think that that is so fascinating. I think that a lot of the people who come on the show, we all have different backgrounds of how we got into cannabis or how we got into health, how we got into helping people be well. And it seems that your journey is really awesome. That you're teaching people about soil health. That's something that I ran into when I was starting my bee sanctuaries and trying to figure out which plants to send to people in the BeeWell box, the honey subscription service that I'd started, trying to figure out which seeds to send people that would be the best for that area. And you know through that process, I learned how horrible our soil is, and how and like what we're doing to it, and how we use all these horrible chemicals, and so take me through that practice a little bit. How would you approach somebody? They say, hey, I don't want to spray the weeds. So you got to teach them how to pick their weeds, or maybe how to grow
That's a great
different.
point. That's a great point. It's how to pick the plant for the right place. You can't just buy a banana tree and plant it in Maine in a sandy area. You'd be better off getting a pine tree and planting it in that sandy area. Or if it's wet, you'd be better off planting a willow tree in that area. So you can't really just plant whatever you want anywhere you want. You have to really pick and choose. There's a time and place for each plant, and I think it's important to provide native plants to the area. And we did a lot of native plant design and just incorporating native plants into our everyday landscape, which I still do to this day. It's a passion of mine.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. We have a partner who is this young lady named Tori, and she's going to be coming on the show at some point. She owns a company called Be the Buzz, and is what they do is they actually go to people and companies. I mean, they could come to Mark's Organics and they would rip up all the grass and rip up everything, and then they would plant native plants in their place. And I just met this person because I was walking my dogs in Portsmouth one time, and I saw one of these yards, and that's always what I say. Grow food, not lawns.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
see it everywhere.
yeah. So it's so cool to have seen that, and then to have met her, through that experience. But she's all about that. She taught me a ton about that, about the natives and how you need the native plants, and the native plants are going to do the best here because they've been proliferating here for thousands of years. So that's the practice that you guys would use.
Absolutely, yeah. We do a lot of the native plants, and I think I seen those stickers everywhere. Grow food, not lawn, and I think that's important. I took accredited by the National Organic Farmers Association. There was very a lot of different things like that we had to get through, but they were very particular about certain things, like even when you're watering your grass or watering your garden, make sure you're doing it at the appropriate time of day. Make sure the sprinkler isn't going over the grass and going onto the pavement. Technically, we could have lost our license if somebody drove by and saw us sprinkling water onto the pavement. They don't like that a lot. So they're just very particular, but it's nice that they are particular about that because they care. And I think that was why I loved getting that accreditation and going back for it and getting educated on that, because it was local people that cared about the environment, not just out there to make money or grow their brand or business. It was, I always saw fertilizing companies who were doing the opposite. They just didn't care about anything, the coast, the waters, anything.
Was it just the fertilizing companies, or was it other, like the big Scots? That's kind of who I'm thinking of. Or was it also like fellow landscapers who were, just not dabbling in the best practices?
I think it was just being uneducated. And I think that's why it helped me so much taking some classes like that, to just be aware of the surroundings and the animals and the bugs and everything. I mean, we were always taught in that class to feed the bugs, not the plant. And I don't think a lot of people know what that means. When somebody dumps some fertilizer onto a plant, they don't realize they're just feeding that plant. They're not worrying about the soil food web underneath, the macro and the microorganisms. That's really what is making this world turn here. And you got to take care of those things, even the birds and the birds and the bees.
Yeah, baby, the birds and the bees for sure.
Yeah.
What now? What is some of that? What is some of that stuff? The macro and the micro. What is something that we want to achieve for healthy soil? Like what's the ultimate goal?
Yeah, I guess the end goal would be to create something. I mean, it's important to listen what the customer wants, but when you're educating them onto doing things the healthy way, someone would ask me to renovate their lawn, and they thought I was just going to basically bring in some fertilizers, maybe some grass seed, but it really was a lot more than that. Especially what we were taught in the National Organic Farmers Association, and then Paul Tukey, he wrote a great book on organic turf management, and there's a whole regimen on aeration and creating air into the soil. And before you're putting anything down, take a soil test and make sure that you're deficient in some of the things that you're about to put on, whether it's organic fertilizer or chemical fertilizer. I think it would be important to take a soil test and know what you have before you just start dumping a bunch of money and powders and dusts onto your lawn. But, it's funny. A lot of the issue was just a lack of air. It was anaerobic soil. So it was pretty easy to get air back in there as far as turf management goes. It was just an aerator, and you just either stood on it or walked behind it, or whatever type of machine you had. And that would usually solve a lot of the problems.
Right.
And then you mix that with a little compost on top for a little top dress and a little grass seed. And next thing you know, you don't need any fertilizer for the next 10 years. You just have a beautiful green, grassy lawn like a lot of people wanted. I'd try to convince them to uh, plant some gardens instead of the grass, but there's a lot of money in this area in Kittery Point. So a lot of people had large food gardens and they had large grass areas. So you just learn to take care of both.
Yeah, and I think that that's really cool. Everyone, like I said, we want people to grow foods, not lawns, but we know that people are growing lawns, and so
Absolutely.
like if there's a way to help and there's a better way to do it, I'm glad that you were doing that.
Correct.
To get get a instead of showing up, I know like Scots, you sign up, you pay them $400 or whatever, and they show up four times. Scots 1 through 4, and that's just like just horrible because it's like you're just trying to put you're basically just trying to put the nitrogen, and all the rest of the stuff that the plants need with all these other, horrible chemicals, back into the soil. When the soil, if you do it appropriately, the soil should, produce this on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the times I would ask these fertilizing companies, the employees that were working for them, what are you putting down? They never had any idea what they were putting down. They weren't wearing masks. I mean, they did everything wrong. And at the same time, they're poisoning our environment. It was just bullshit, really.
Yeah.
Still is. They're all over the place. And we have such beautiful coastal areas that I just can't believe they still allow that shit.
It's horrible. It's definitely horrible. Now where was the transition? You say I know that you were at home and people were starting to come over and you started, but when did you decide, hey, I'm going to start growing weed and I'm going to try to get into this and tell me a little bit about that.
I've always grown weed since I was probably 13 or 14. And I didn't do it to sell to anybody. I really didn't even do it to smoke it. I just loved seeing that plant grow. And I would always try to get an end result. And sometimes I got something a little bit here and there, but I always just enjoyed it. And so after a few years, I tried growing it inside and I really liked doing that. And I made a lot of mistakes. And I think that was the funnest part, was failing and trying to correct those mistakes, and it just kept getting better and better, and then it led me to just want to have the cleanest medicine out there. There's so many growers that are growing with chemical, salty fertilizers that don't care about what's in their medicine, and I do. That's going into my lungs, so I don't really want something weird that I don't know about, that I haven't researched, going into my lungs. I'd rather just have it as clean, organic, natural as possible. I don't want dried up pesticides or salty chemicals possibly still in there.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's definitely what if we could have that for everybody, that would be the giddy up. And it's kind of sad that there's a ton of cannabis a ton of cannabis and a ton of food out there that has all these bullshit chemicals in there. Um, Now, so tell me a little bit about this growing process, though. It must be pretty unique, and how, because I know I've been to. I'm not a grower, but I've been to my fair share of grows, and I understand the process, and I've witnessed, these harsh chemicals being used, quite a bit, and so I just am kind of curious about how do you pull it off? Because I know that you guys, great business. Your business has been growing forever, so you're obviously doing something right with the methodology you're using.
Yeah, my brother, he's a very, very experienced organic grower. Um, we both have read a lot of great books on organic gardening, one being the Elliot Coleman's Organic Grower, the first organic grower, I think it's called. It's a great book, Elliot Coleman. And he has really taught me a lot in how he does things. And we kind of teamed up, and now we work together. But we just try to create a living soil where the bugs can be happy and they can do their thing. And we just try to make the rest of the environment as easy as possible for the plant and as natural as possible. And we would never use any type of pesticides. We would try to use the most natural pest management possible. That doesn't say we don't run into problems, but we have other books that we can go in a more organic, natural way when we run into those type of issues.
So there you are using some chemicals, but they're just organic chemicals.
I guess no, we're not using any chemicals. I mean, I don't know if neem oil would be considered a chemical. I guess not, but that's probably as harsh as we go. I guess it really depends on if it was omni rated and such things, and depending on the situation. I know back in landscaping, um, worst case scenario, we would have to use integrated pest management. So after, and even with the National Organic Farmers Association, we would fall back to integrated pest management. So we would try all the organic, natural practices as possible. We'll try to get rid of whatever we're trying to fix. And if that wasn't the case, then we were able to use very light and proper chemicals that would seem to help. But most of the time, if we really get a bad problem, we're just throwing the plants out and starting fresh.
Right. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, that's not usually what people in this industry, would do. They would usually trying to make money. It's, a lot of capitalists out there. So I think that that's really cool that you guys are doing it that way.
Yeah, we try very hard to keep it all natural.
How big of a grow are you doing this at? Like what's the size?
2,500 square feet, and one of them, and the other is about 3,000 square feet. And then we're still working on our third build out indoor, and then we have a large area for our outdoor as well, our sun grown.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. What do you think about the difference between sun-grown cannabis versus indoor indoor cannabis?
Well, I personally think it creates a better taste. It doesn't quite look quite as
The
nice.
sun, you're saying,
The sun
creates.
grown, yeah,
Yeah,
the Mother Nature, the full spectrum sun, really produces a great product, and I love just being outside, and I think the plants do too.
I think so.
That's where they belong. We've kind of domesticated them into indoor cultivations, but that's just the industry, and I think there's plenty of place for outdoor sun grown cannabis as well, and we do a lot of that. And I prefer when I am medicating, I would prefer to have the most natural, full spectrum sun in my in my medicine as possible.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about it. I it's wild because we do know that about the sun, and we are in some cases mimicking the same type of light that's that these plants are getting, from my understanding. But these plants have been doing this dance with the sun for millennia. So just like human beings, just like we need exposure to light, to exist. It's how we're going to be the happiest. If we, neuroscience is, really, really starting to come along in that right now.
Mm,
If you expose yourself to light early in the morning, you're going to have better sleep patterns. Your melatonin, your circadian rhythm, everything is more so in
absolutely, I
line.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and so it's the plants are the same exact way, and I really do think that there's something to that. Like, whether we'll ever get to study that or if it will get lost in the translation because of the capitalism behind it, who knows?
100%. It's funny they tell you to stay out of the sun.
Yeah, right. They do.
I don't think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that in some cases, you do need to protect yourself from the sun. Like, some people can, with fairer skin can have, skin cancer I think the sun can cause that, and that
Yeah.
can be a thing. But yeah, staying out of the sun is definitely not what not what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can just the only sunscreen I wear is a brimmed hat or a long sleeve shirt. I think and it's appropriate to get out of the sun when need be. And I also think it's important what's inside your body that can make the sun unhealthy in your body.
Yeah.
Because if you're filled with canola oil or bullshit seed oils, yeah, you might get cancer a little faster than the person who's drinking raw milk and organic whatever,
Tourmaline water.
the tourmaline water,
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess they're gonna get a free plug today, but we're gonna have to talk to them about some ad time, some sponsorship.
It's
But
a great water.
it is a great water. Mark came in today with a tourmaline water, and kind of just on his whole his whole existence is about that, trying to optimize his experience. And tourmaline, this water here it's produced up in Maine. It's actually the only aquifer that doesn't touch. It doesn't touch plastic or anything before it's bottled. It doesn't touch anything before it's bottled right into there. So it's pretty incredible how they're doing it. And water matters, it matters big time. When I started taking that, I would go to the gym, I was at yoga, and I didn't bring my water that day, and I started drinking the tourmaline. It changed everything to the point where I was then going up to my bee sanctuaries, and I found a spring, and I was sourcing my own water from a spring on the side of the road, and, up in the mountains in New Boston. So it changed my life, that water, so it's cool to see that you take it as well.
Spring water is definitely the best water that can go in your body. And I think there's actually a website called findaspring.com where you can go on there and find a spring at whatever state you may be in.
Yep.
And like you said, you'll just find people on the side of the road filling up jugs. And I like talking to those people when you get to a spring because they'll tell you some local stories. Oh, I've been drinking this water since I was 5, or my grandfather lived till he was 110, and
Yeah.
we've lived here our whole life. So,
My kids are this healthy, I
yeah,
love hearing the stories too, man. Every time I go, I'm still trying to figure out the plastic thing. I reuse the plastic and recycle and just filling up my jugs. I am still trying to figure out that portion of it.
definitely. Yeah, I think drinking out of glass is pretty important.
Yeah, it's what I always try. Yeah, well, of course, man. I know we live in this society, but like I try as much as I can to drink out of glass, or metal
Definitely.
or whatever.
Yeah, I do a combination. I love this tourmaline spring, and it's convenient to bring with me when need be. But um, I do have a Kangen water machine at my house, which is a great filter, and it actually separates the pHs of the water, which is a little more sustainable as far as not bringing plastic bottles with you. I'm pretty sure there's one in every Japanese hospital. It's really some of the best
Kangen,
water on the planet. Kangen water.
Kangen. Yeah, I think that they said that I'm on a water kick, and I think that the filtration is so necessary, and being able to adjust the pH, that's medicine.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
pretty cool. It goes down as low as 2.5 if you really have to sanitize or clean something, even a cut or something or a counter. And then it goes all the way up to 11.5, which you can use to whiten your teeth or laundry detergent. And then just the regular drinking water, you can get it right there. And then in the neutral, if you got to take like medication. And then I think the best pH to drink to reduce the acidity inside is the 9.5, which is great. You can use 8.5 in your coffee, which slightly reduces the acidity. But me and you were talking earlier, all diseases thrive in acidic
Yeah.
body. So if you can reduce that a little bit throughout the day, you're ahead of the majority.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think the water game needs to keep improving. The city that we do the podcast. I actually can't speak to Newington, but Portsmouth has horrible water.
Oh,
It's so
bad.
so chlorinated. Like, so people, maybe looking to get yourself a Kangen.
Yeah,
Like,
they're expensive, but
yeah,
yeah,
what's
look into
what
it.
is the cost?
4 grand.
4 grand.
Yeah.
So that's the thing though, man, is it's like, I don't, I 4 grand is that's a big cost, for sure for anybody, a huge investment. But like if your health and your kids' health and
Yeah.
your animals'
I
health,
feel
like,
like you're either going to pay it now or you can pay it at the doctor later, but one way you're going to pay it.
yep, 100%. What's your opinion on the water with the you're feeding the plants?
We just have big boy filters that take out the chlorine, and chlorine can inhibit some of the plant's uptake in some of the different nutrients that we have in our living soil. So we just try to get as much of that chlorine as possible, get rid of as much of that chlorine as possible. And so those big boy filters seem to do a pretty darn good job. They have carbon filters, and um, we put 2 of them in a row, so they got to go through the 4 filters before they even get to the plants. That's as good as it gets over there. I'm not giving my plants the Kangen water. I'm saving that for me, me and my family and my daughters.
Yeah, giddy up, dude. No, for sure. I hear that. But I'm glad that you're doing something, because I know a lot of people are just taking the BS water and city water or whatever, and feeding their plants with that.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Or
it's unfortunate.
mixing it with nutrients, mixing it with harsh organic chemicals, and then feeding their plants.
They don't have any other option, so I can't necessarily blame them. At least they're doing what they want to do. But you're right, like it's not ideal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not blaming these people. I mean, I think that if they are able to, then maybe they should. It would be cool if they could start working towards practices like yours. You've obviously set yourself up in a nice place where you can do that, and it's because it's obviously more costly, right?
Doing what?
Your form of growing opposed to using the.
It's more costly, I would assume a little bit, yeah, and it's also more labor. A lot of people are steering away from soil in general just because it's heavier and there's a lot more work to go with it. But I
They
just
use like the cocoa coir.
yeah, a lot of growers are using cocoa, and it's very light. It's easy to feed. It's easy to flush, and the plant seems to like it being in there. And the roots grow easy. They're air. So I don't know much about it. I don't do
Right, but
that.
you don't do it, but you do the soil.
Yeah, we do the soil. Yeah.
So did you have to introduce the bugs into the soil?
Yeah. So we use like a native compost to kind of inoculate.
Yep.
And I can't go too much in our soil recipe, but yes, we're inoculating, if you will.
Cool.
And we everything that we have in the soil that the plant and the bugs need is in the soil. We don't have to give it any liquid organic nutrients. We don't have to give it anything after we make our soil. It's in there. That's it. We just water it.
Just water.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man. Like for people who are not too familiar with cannabis growing, like like you said, some of these people they have to be doing this, or this is what they're how they think maybe this is how they think it's good to grow this way. I don't know, but like they're just dumping every day they feed their plants. They're dumping a 1-to-1 mixture. Not 1-to-1 water, but 1-to-1 of whatever the chemicals that they're using. Talking maybe 2 cups of this BS, 2 cups of that BS, and then they're just putting in. This is every day that they're hitting their plants with these.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we do use one liquid, and it's just a compost tea. So we'll throw in some um, lobster meal or crab meal, and then we'll mix that with some molasses and a few other little things, and that will create a lot of micronutrients. And that's one way that we do some inoculating, but we do that probably a couple times through the plant cycle, and that seems to help for the soil and a foliar.
Okay, cool. So you're fully living it. The organics in Mark's Organics. It's you guys are there's no bullshit to it.
That's right. Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool because I'm a big believer in the universe, and so I was I could have picked 100 brands, right? Like I could have picked a thought, how many ever delivery services were out there,
Sure.
but I picked yours, and then I consistently used your shop until I started doing this on my own. This is where I exclusively was getting my medicine, and I didn't even know I said I was bought into the brand and I was bought into you, so. But I didn't actually know what you guys were doing. I never took the time to ask anybody, how you guys were actually growing or, what the process actually was. So that's it. It just makes me feel a lot better too about the medicine that I was getting, that I was being grown this way.
Totally, yeah. And I can't say everything that we sell at our store is organic because we don't grow everything. There's just too much demand. But if we are buying some products from other vendors, we do ask them their practices, and we definitely pick and choose the more cleaner and natural ones. A lot of the vendors are organic, and a lot of the edibles that we sell are organic and full spectrum, but not everything is. And not everybody wants that, and not everybody cares. And that's fine. I care, and that's fine too.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a cool way to look at it. Instead of being super, like, you could be super angry about it and super, I want to be this way, but you're just taking out, this is how you exist and this is how you want to push it forward. And I respect that a lot.
Cool.
Now, so we've got into the growing. So is that kind of your thing, because like I said, you're mostly growing with your time, or
No, no,
so obviously
actually.
it's running up the business is crazy.
I
So
was exactly, yeah. Running business is crazy. Running cultivation is crazy. Wholesaling, retailing, but yeah, I was doing a lot of the growing, and then it just seemed to be easier to hire somebody smarter than me, better than me to take care of that. That freed me up to expand a little bit. We're looking for a second location for our store, which we think we found one. And we wanted to expand our cultivation. So we're on our third build out for our indoor cultivation. We're looking to acquire more land for our outdoor cultivation. And there's a lot of work to be done with that. So we have some equipment, and um, there's a lot of uh, clearing, and it's not just you buy a piece of land and you're able to grow. There's a lot of work that goes with it, and me and a little crew have to go out, and we got to take care of these properties and make sure that they're ready for cultivation and ready for buildings and ready for the contractors. And so it's throughout the day. That's usually what I'm doing, is going from cultivation to cultivation, making sure things are going properly and making sure that we're keeping up with the schedule.
giddy up, and that's awesome that you guys are working on a second location. That's awesome. Do you wholesale to anyone else? Because you said that you had you have a tough time keeping up with the demand for your own flower. But do you wholesale your flower to anyone else, or do you strictly sell that through your store?
We wholesale a little bit. as this third indoor, excuse me, cultivation comes about, I think we're going to be wholesaling quite a bit more because we're going to have more product. But we're also growing more strains. So I think that is a big thing. We want to have variety. And right now we have a lot of variety, but we're also having to buy that variety. And now that we can grow more variety, um, we know how much we can sell at our store. So that gives us a little um, play to wholesale a few, which is nice. We've never really been able to do that. And it's nice having a little extra weed to wholesale. And it's really not a wholesaler's world right now, unfortunately, but um, it's a retailer's world. So the more you can sell in your store, the better off you are.
Yeah, and that seems like you guys are set up for success that way, for sure. Curious though that you had mentioned that there more patients are coming from out of state than from in Maine, and I'm just curious about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why, but I have a hunch that it has something to do with the variety that they may have that they don't have a variety or enough of it. Maybe it's more taxes. I know that the prices in Massachusetts and New Hampshire are crazy compared to Maine. Maine's very lenient when it comes to edibles and concentrates and stuff. The amounts that you can purchase are more in Maine than the other states.
The amount of milligrams.
Well, the actual amount of concentrate you're allowed to buy too. I think in Massachusetts you're only allowed to purchase 10 grams at a time. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere around there. And in Maine, I think you're allowed to sell 70 grams at a time.
Wow. Okay.
And then I think it's different with flour as well. I think it's 2.5 ounces in Maine, and it might only be an ounce or two in Mass. But those small little things push people towards us, and it's not just one of them. It's a whole list of things that push people towards Maine in general.
Yeah,
Because New
definitely
Hampshire's
grown.
no better.
Yeah, no, New Hampshire is
Shit show.
it's a shit show.
Yeah.
And are you guys? Have you, if New Hampshire went, if they did go, I know you guys are, they are medical over there, but if they went adult use and then maybe their medical program got a little bit better, would you ever be interested in maybe trying to get over there? Or
That's a good question. I don't think so. Not necessarily New Hampshire. Um, I don't know. Something rubs me the wrong way about New Hampshire. They kind of want liquor stores to take over and be the people who are going to sell the weed. I don't really know much about it, so I shouldn't talk too much about it, but it just seems like I should stay out of New Hampshire.
yeah, I hear that. I think that it is a mess, in terms of that. I mean, the bill that was the last bill that they put up, and that got rejected.
Correct.
Now there's another one that's being put in front of the House this year that will be, more so like Maine. You can grow at your house, private licenses. So we'll see how that one goes. We're actually hoping to have somebody on the show to come and talk about that a little bit more. But I agree, New Hampshire's a shit show, and they need to figure it out. And if I was in your place, I probably wouldn't be, looking to get my business over there, anyways.
I think it's really cool that they're considering letting New Hampshire citizens grow. I mean, I think that's the best part. I try to get all my patients to at least try to grow. We sell some clones and cuts for outdoor season come May, and we try to get everybody to at least try to grow one or two or however many plants they want to grow. And not because we want to take business away from us, just so they can get the feeling of the gratitude and the care for what goes into these plants. And it's important for them to feel that. Just being around plants makes me happy. So I can't imagine everybody else wouldn't feel the same way.
Yeah, and like that, we can't speak for everyone, I guess, but being in my garden, like my vegetable garden, and watching those plants grow and being a part of that with them, there's few other feelings in the world that are better.
100% agreed. Doesn't matter what kind of garden it is, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Just get me outside with the plants, and even if it's inside, that's okay too.
Yeah. If you have to be inside, then yes.
All right, giddy up. I think that the outdoor, just to go back a little bit, the outdoor weed is, the sun grown weed. I really hope that we get to, study that at some point, and we do some, some randomized controlled trials of, indoor grown flower versus outdoor grown flower. I think it just it makes sense that it would be, vastly different and, vastly more beneficial for,
Yeah.
for us.
I think there's just completely different properties in some of it. I mean, when I had my indoor trim processed into some concentrate, and then I had my outdoor trim or outdoor fresh flower, whatever it may be, processed into some either resin or batter, it's amazing the terpene levels compared to the indoor. I can't even, I wish I could show you the video here. Maybe I will later, but it's unbelievable the terpene content, which came from our sun grown compared to our indoor cultivation. It was amazing to see how much extra terpenes were there. It was quite mind blowing. And it was the best it's ever come out this year. So we added a couple things to our soil recipe, our outdoor soil recipe. So we're still experimenting with that, and we're just trying to, experiment one thing at a time. You can't put too many things in because then you're never going to know what worked and what didn't.
Right. No, for sure. It's definitely a process.
Mhm.
So the terpenes, what do you think about the terpenes?
I think the terpenes are really the benefit here. I mean, we need to do a lot more research on the terpenes in general, but there's a lot of properties that, I don't think we should be leaning towards this whole sativa indica racket. I think we should be leaning more towards what profile works for what person. And I think that comes down to the actual terpenes that are in each flower, the profiles. And some people can get away with just saying, "Oh yeah, myrcene, yeah, anything with myrcene will work with me." And then other people need a combination of linalool or different terpenes that work together synergistically. So it's very important that we research more of that and maybe get away from this whole sativa daytime, indica on the couch.
Yeah, I think that we definitely got to get away from that. That's where, like I said, we're all about educating people and trying to help people be well, individuals, community, society as a whole. And like the terpene question needs to be researched. From my background, like, when people started just saying like, oh, this is a indica, this is a sativa, this is a hybrid, and it's just going to make you feel this way. And it's like, well, I know cannabis makes me feel vastly different depending on the strain, and it doesn't always match up with indica, sativa, whatever. So you start to get more into it, and you learn myrcene, linalool, all these the terpenes that are in the flower. It's incredible. Once we'll be able to pair that with the effects, to help. This person has anxiety, this person has depression, this person should get this person should get this.
We need more people researching that exactly.
Yep. And I think that's coming. I think that, before last year, you couldn't even study. It's very hard to study flower. From a research standpoint, it was the only flower that was being grown, I believe, in Mississippi. The people who have been growing it the same way for a long time. That has started to change now, where you can get. Maine, for instance, like you said, there's a reason why the Mass people are coming to Maine, and New Hampshire people are coming to Maine. It's because it's really good weed. It's probably the best weed, some of the best weed in the country. And that's, we have people who, are at the, conferences who tell us that all the time just because of their Maine tag. People come up to them and say, oh, damn, you're from Maine. That's incredible. Like, it's probably because of people like you, who they at first said, before you could do 2,500 square feet or 3,000 square feet, and you can only have 36 plants per caregiver. That's correct, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think it was um, just from the good weed that they're coming down. But I think Maine has a genius, well, maybe not genius, but a great medical program compared to the rest of the country. I mean, look at California. I mean, their medical program went to shit. I don't think anybody's making any money over there. And I don't know if anything's medical over there at all. I just know that I don't even think any caregivers had to pay taxes last year because they're selling pounds for 100 or $200 to each other, and who the hell knows what else is going on over there. But Maine, I mean, we've had it pretty good, comparably speaking, for the past few years, and we've had a lot of people try to screw it up, and Mainers in general have really kept up with the meetings and Just trying to make sure that it's not destroyed by deep multi-state operators, which are usually the people to ruin something good.
Yes, yes, they are, and that's I mean, Maine is so unique, because of that. There's this you can literally go to, State Road in Kittery, and you can have, 4 medical dispensaries that are right there that are all still in business, that are doing well. There's cars always there. But then you have an adult use facility right down the street in Elliott, and they they're you know, in other states that, that's gonna, the medical would keep getting pushed out or, continue. They wouldn't, the people wouldn't. Maybe Mainers are really great at lobbying, and like you said, they're showing up to the meetings. They're doing the work. They're staying up on it. They're creating their business. They're being very smart with the way they're positioning their businesses. But the deep state operators, they're always going to come, and they're coming here now. But I think that Maine medical doesn't go the way of California. It doesn't go the way of, even like Massachusetts, where in Massachusetts it's you go into the same shop and you can, whatever the milligram is, if it's you need to get higher milligrams and you have your card, you're going to not pay tax, and then you just get the higher milligrams. um, I don't think that ever exists in, maybe, but I don't think that exists in Maine. I think that there's space always for a Mark's Organics and an East Coast Cannabis.
I agree. I think definitely. I mean, whenever I see somebody that I know that doesn't have a med card that I know consumes cannabis, and I ask them, why don't you get a medical card? And they just have no reason why they should. They have no idea that it's slightly more taxes, slightly less variety, slightly more money, slightly more people that you might have to wait in line in front of. I'm not getting down on the adult use recreational market. We have considered it in the past, and we've come to the conclusion that it would be a disservice for our patients to even try. And we just enjoy the whole medical process. We like signing people up for cards. We like having them talk to the doctors and talk about their tolerance and what their ailments and what's wrong with them and their why are they taking this, and just asking them questions about themselves and figuring that out. You don't really get that with the adult use market. I mean, no one really cares why the kid's coming in there to buy a pre-roll, and who knows, maybe there is an ailment there, but that's just the way I have heard people talk about it. And I don't, I don't ever plan on going into the adult use market myself, but I have nothing against it. And I know East Coast Cannabis, they do a great job. And I know those guys, they're very nice people. And I think they're doing a great thing.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I think that there's space for everybody here, and you know, as long as the deep pocketed multi-state operators don't come in and with their sharp elbows and try boxing everybody out, and that's why like Maine, has to stay strong that way, because that's what they will try to do. They'll try to make it impossible through legislation, through whatever, so that people it makes it harder to get the card, or now you're getting taxed at some point with through medical, like they try to cap it at the amount of milligrams because they can only give 100 milligrams.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Or they cap the number of stores, or they make the license $20,000 so no mom and pop could afford it, but the
right.
deep pockets can, the MSOs can. At one point, we weren't even allowing out of state operators. You had to live in this state for 4 years before you could open up a store or a cultivation. And now they just stopped that. So anybody out of state can come in and do whatever they want. But Maine is good about that kind of stuff. They know the local people, they know what's around. And I think Mainers are pretty good at sniffing out fraud from the multi-state operators. I won't drop any names here, but there's a few in Maine that I think a lot of people know enough just not to go to. And I see them shutting down their stores because, they don't care. They don't really, yeah, they might be medical, but I don't think they really care about their patients. I don't think the owner or the CEO would be there and figuring out what is wrong with the old lady walking in who has a hunchback or in a wheelchair. It's like,
Not where they're spending their time.
no.
Yeah, no chance. And that's why it can get it, it might get a little wild, and it might be, it's going to definitely be different. But I pray and I hope that this beautiful medical market always exists for these patients. And at the same time, I hope that the adult use market continues to grow. And there's 10 million people who come up to Maine, and at the end of the every summer, that let's service them as well. And a lot of those people are medical patients as well. But uh, going making sure that that is protected is something that like needs to be the case, and doesn't go the way of, medical just doesn't exist anymore, because you have to. And the only thing I can think of is it's the card. You need the card, and the card is a good thing because it allows people to have that diagnoses, and understanding that. But that's also a barrier to someone coming into your store.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a barrier. I mean, the way the federal government has made it seem like they would take away your guns. You're not supposed to have a gun and a
Yep.
medical card. I think that pushes a lot of people away. I don't necessarily think, I think you just can't really be driving around with a gun and a bunch of weed, but you could technically have your medical card and a gun. I know many people that do. So I'm
Y
not sure.
yeah, no, so that's actually about, I think, like, a month ago, somebody had come out, from, I think it's maybe out of Oklahoma, because they just went, and they ruled that it was that's actually unconstitutional. So there
Yeah, and it won, right?
it won, yeah,
That's right. That was awesome to see.
it is awesome to see, because it's like that is Mainers love their firearms, and, like, rightfully so,
Yeah,
whatever,
whatever.
yeah, do your thing.
Do your
And
thing.
yeah, especially, like, most of these people have their firearms because they're hunting, that they hunt for food, like, so
Exactly.
the fact that was just wild to me. You can't, you can have a gun and you can go get all this booze, like, literally at any time, but you can't have cannabis. It just, yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Really doesn't. No, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, there was prohibition for alcohol, there was prohibition for cannabis, and I can't see ho what's gonna happen when it's federally legal. I mean, what do you think is gonna happen with the whole market?
Yeah, so it's so curious, right? Because there are states out there, especially a place where up in Maine in the Northeast, where we only get 79 Sundays per year. And especially when we know that this, outdoor weed can be as good as indoor weed, especially when it's being processed. It's even, better. You're getting better
Maybe
results when
better,
it may
yeah.
be better when it's being processed.
Yeah.
So there people like you, and people like East Coast cannabis, and these, that could be really challenging if Oklahoma, who just gave out unlimited licenses and has so much open space, all these some of these other southern states that have so much open space, they come on board, they have just acres and acres of outdoor flower that they just are churning out. Sure, they're behind the eight ball a little bit, so it takes some time to catch up and all that, but eventually they're able to sell pounds a lot cheaper than up here in Maine. They can just produce them for cheaper. And so maybe there's a way that the federal government comes in and says, okay, these four states are you pair states, okay? This state can't grow as much weed, so Oklahoma can sell to Maine, and Texas can sell to New Hampshire, and Arizona can sell to New York. Um, but I don't know if you like if you do just let the market like figure itself out, like in a true capitalistic sense. I think that could be really bad. And I think the states will try to protect them. That's revenue just going out, the tax revenue just disappearing from them overnight. Maine is great with their cannabis users, and they help their adult use and medical a lot. OCP is great. That's because it's a great thing for the state. It's paying the state a lot of money. It's but if that gets undercut by another state that can just do it way cheaper, the whole program, both sides, adult use and medical, could just be flipped on its head.
Correct, and I
So
feel like that has happened in some other states. It's just it was good, and then it turned into crap because there's too many hands in the cookie jar.
yeah, exactly. Too many licenses and too many, and let's because it's wild. It's like you have to kind of, Maine was kind of cool with it because it got slow, and they kind of just let people do their thing. And but now it's like a place like Oklahoma where it's people have been chomping at the bit, ready to go, and they know they could do it. send, and the unlimited licenses, there's no protection there.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be careful when you're putting caps on licenses or stores and stuff like that because, I mean, I'm pretty sure the town of Portland got sued for trying to put a cap on the number of stores. And look how many stores are in Portland now. I mean, if you opened up a store in Portland, I'd be surprised if you got a customer a day. There's
Literally.
so many stores out there. And it's a great place. It's filled with wonderful people, great cultivators, and great stores. I know a lot of the people that are out there and they have great products, but it is flooded.
Yeah, it's super flooded. With the Portland situation is like you said, you can go into the store and they might be getting one customer. You might see, you see flower that's been there for 6 months. And you have people who, I know some cultivators, adult use cultivators who have had some stores call them back and be like, "Hey, do you do buybacks?" Like that's how bad it is when you
Yikes.
yikes, right?
Yeah,
So when you do certain things, you know, the you do certain things that can just really crush the market, whether it's super finicky, I guess.
definitely.
And so what do you think? Do you think that what do you, if full send, federal legalization, let's go and
I honestly don't know, and I don't even know where to start. But I've talked to a lot of people in OCP. I've talked to some people in the Food and Drug Administration that gives us our kitchen license and stuff, and they had seemed to think that the markets were going to merge somehow, and I just can't seem to organize that thought in my head. I don't see how that would happen, but they seem at some point they really seem like the market, the adult use and the medical are going to merge. I don't know how that would work. I have no idea. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of new rules and regulations, but honestly, I don't even really care that much. I'm just I'm in the present right now, and I don't want to look into the future too much.
no, that I think that's a giddy up, and that's definitely a good model for you right now. I think that what that those people are saying, okay, if yes, if we could create something and merge the markets together, that would be good. But you to actually get there, that's like you just said, it's insanity.
Yeah, I mean, the rec side of things, it seems more expensive, more difficult. You got to jump through a million more hoops. And, sometimes it's a little difficult on the medical side, but like it just doesn't seem fair to like those adult use people and the medical people. I don't know. There's just so many things to take into
There's
consideration.
just so many
It's
holes with it because it's like you have all this stuff right there, and that's where the deep pocketed multi-state operators. That's why they're going to be pushing for that merge, and that's why we don't want the programs to merge. I think I'm pretty.
agreed.
Agree, yeah, I think that's pretty solid. That's where the Dr. BeeWell stands on. We don't want them to merge because if they merge, how it happens, it plays out. The deep state multi operators, they come in and they're the ones who are able to pay for the licenses. They're going to lobby so hard to make those licenses more expensive so that they're out of reach from the mom and pop medical store, and then they just get smoked.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not the model. I don't think is the merge, but you got to think because there is so much money in it, and people have so much invested in this that they're like even for me, I think about like D8, Delta 8. Like this is a compound when, Delta 9 is the compound that we're always talking about that is THC, that what we know about. Delta 8, people are selling it right now all over the place. It's a gray market. People like you go down to Florida where it's not there's no adult use market, and you walk in and there's, these shops that are smoke shops, but you go in there and it's D8 flower, it's D8 edibles, it's D8 everything. So it's like the lobby are going to have to lobby against the D8, making that THC illegal because that undercuts the regular THC market. And so it's just there's so much of this, you know, like bullshit that the multi-state operators would have to worry about, that they're going to come down so hard on the laws. Like they're going to regulate it very, very much so, I think, at some point. Right now it's open. You have all these different chemicals, but the more and more we learn about it, the more regulation is coming. And I think it comes from the lobbying from the deep pocketed multi-state operators.
Definitely. I mean, there's always going to be some company or business or corporation that is going through loopholes and figuring out ways to sell, like cannabis legally in a Florida convenience store. They're buying that D8 and they're getting high off it and they don't need a medical card. I thought it was kind of genius when I first opened my store. I'm like, oh, so we could sell this product as long as it's clean and we get it from somebody local. We can sell this product to somebody who doesn't have a medical card and these, everything else to people that do. And nobody wanted that junk. And I don't blame them really because we couldn't really find it in state. So it was tough to find it like organic and local. And I just feel like if you're gonna get the medicine, you're gonna get the Delta 9, you're gonna get the good stuff. You're not gonna get something find a friend that has a medical card, do whatever you
Yeah.
gotta do.
Right. Yeah. Do whatever you got to do, and I think that maybe at some point we should study, Delta 8 and see what's up and see what's good with that. And
Yeah, sure. Maybe Delta 10 and 11, sure. Why
yeah,
not?
right. And I
Do the
think that
research.
that's what they do the research. I think that's the full spectrum, experience is what people is what we want. I know that the D8 that what you're talking about, and like you don't know if it's locally sourced. You don't know this. It's a lot of this D8 was converted from CBD,
Exactly, yeah,
right,
hemp, yeah.
through a harsh process. So
I
like,
think they technically it had to be derived from CBD and it was like a big long extraction process that used a lot of it,
yep.
but I don't know much
Yeah,
other
I
than
mean
that.
that sounds right. And I'm not super well versed in it either, but I think that it's the just that chemical conversion that that's something's up with that, maybe. So it's not not something that you want to do without studying a little bit further.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when I started looking into it, I was like, yeah, I'm glad we didn't go full board with this stuff.
Right. Right. It's because it's funny, you see different reports of it, like how, I think that maybe they're gonna have different effects, just like the terpenes have different effects. This is a different chemical. It's gonna
Definitely, definitely. And I
so
feel like something new is coming out every day. And, back then, everything was new. Even selling weed legally was new. So for a new product to come out, we're always looking at new things, but you educate yourself. You have friends in the community in the industry, and you got to chat with them and figure out what's working and what's not. And there's a huge community in Maine, which is nice, and that falls back on that medical program. But um, it's nice to just sit and talk to other vendors and other cultivators and see what's working and what's not. And it's nice. There's a great community around here.
yeah, I think the community is great. And I think that's what's going to keep pushing it forward, and hopefully making it withstand forever. Getting some smart people involved in the the legislation and figuring out exactly how Maine Medical gets to stay or grow into what it's going to become alongside these adult use shops. Because
Definitely.
it sucks, man. It's like you have people. It's easy for people. It does it. Your medical card lapses, and the next time you're over, you say, "Dang, I want some weed. I don't want to go get my medicine." It's like, oh, my medical, but okay, I can go right down the street there, and we need to educate the people that hey, you are paying a little bit more money and all that, all this stuff, and as long as the unconstitutional stuff about the guns and all this other stuff, like having a medical card isn't, it's not bad. I assume you are tracking the people what they buy, so that is something that is known. I guess that's one downside of a medical card is like someone has access to your consumption, um, which is also a good thing because these are people who are providing you with the medical care. But the adult use side, they scan your ID when you go in, but they don't track what you're actually buying. So maybe that's a benefit for people as well. I don't
I
really know.
think you're right. Absolutely. A lot of people from Massachusetts will come by and say, "Well, I've maxed out on at my dispensary in Mass, and now I got to come down here and max out here." So they're tracking what they're buying, and they're not being really tracked when they come over to Maine. So, I mean, of course, there's legal limits that they can purchase, but they could bring a friend, or there's
Yeah.
other ways of getting around whatever is holding them back
In
in
Massachusetts,
Massachusetts.
right? And Massachusetts probably has their medical program all giddied up and fine tuned, where they know like this person is. It's now we're getting it. It's going up to the the main list. They went to three different dispensaries or whatever. and they've used all their personal medical card use.
Sure.
The amount of weed they can buy.
Exactly. It's a funny rule. That doesn't necessarily go for Mainers, though, because technically the rule in Maine, if they come in, they could buy 70 grams of concentrate. Then they could drive off and go home real quick and then come right back and buy 70 more grams. But somebody from out of state couldn't do that.
Okay, so it's only from people in Maine that are allowed to buy. Is it unlimited?
It's limited to 70 grams, but they can go and get rid of that and then come right back. We don't know where they go after they walk out our door,
Right,
but they could come right back in.
right.
There's no,
No,
yeah,
no laws around
no,
that.
yeah. It's like a little loophole with Mainers.
Yeah, so I mean that's obviously why that's a thing that I just said maybe we shouldn't track it. Maybe we shouldn't track it at all. Like I said, because Maine doesn't really care. Obviously, if somebody can buy 70 grams and then leave and then come back, like that's okay, that's fine. But these kids at Mass are coming up here because their dispensaries are saying, no, you've bought too much. It's like that. I think that's maybe a little bit too much control. Like, just how about we just to get a med card? Okay, you get the med card, you do the diagnosis, you pay the $50, whatever, and then that's it. Then you have the med card. You got to renew it. Sure, you got to renew it, but no tracking, no nothing of that. There's just you have the med card.
I just thought that was funny because there's really no limit to the amount of bottles of whiskey you could buy or 6 packs of beer. I mean, why would they try to limit this? It's crazy. I know it's a slow process, but it's just not logical.
Yeah, I think that's like the logical bit of it sometimes is it's just like it's treated like such a different, such a different, like such a hard, like a hard drug, like when booze is the research is so incredibly clear. The reason the data is out there, like alcohol is worse, than in
Zero benefit.
zero benefit, and it literally makes it, is killing people, to the tune of, whatever it is a year. I think, I don't know the stat, 300,000 people or whatever,
Mhm.
people die from drunk driving accidents and alcohol related cirrhosis. Like, it's
Mhm.
fucking high. And it's probably even way higher than that too, with all the people who are just, because there are other disease states, and it's, where within cannabis, you're sure the smoking not great, not the best. But if you're putting the best possible product in your body, maybe you don't have to worry about that as much. But like with what we do, edibles, like as long as your brain is fully developed, I don't see
Yeah,
the
definitely.
downsides of it, man.
I agree. Like any type of hot smoke going into your lungs is not ideal, whether it's organic or not. But there's plenty of other ways: capsules and tinctures and edibles, and it just depends on the quality that you want going into your body. We have plenty of organic edibles, and we have plenty of edibles that have non-organic ingredients in there, and that's fine. Not everybody wants organic, but I think it's important to at least have the variety. Yeah,
Yeah, giddy up. So you guys have organic? You love the giddy up?
I love the giddy up.
Yeah, dude, it's the mantra. I just can't help myself,
It's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. We'll be coming out with a product pretty soon with the mantra on there. So we're hoping that one's gonna take off.
Sweet.
Dr. BeeWell's the giddy up.
Nice.
So do you have organic edibles at the shop?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we make our own tinctures and our own capsules, and we have one chocolate bar that we make all organic. And obviously, we make our capsules and our tinctures with our flour, which is organic. Um, and we use organic coconut oil when we're infusing the medicinal properties into it to make our capsules. And then we get a couple organic products from a couple different brands. Norumbega is one of them. They do a really, really good job. Most of their edibles are lower dose and mixed with CBD, so a lot of them are 1-to-1. They have a lot of CBN, CBG in them as well. Some are more for sleeping, some are more for daytime. But that really comes down to the cannabinoids that are put into these edibles, like the flower that they're actually using. Not necessarily sativa indica, but now that's a whole different topic of terpenes,
Yeah.
cannabinoids now. So,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's another thing that needs to be researched a lot more. Uh, Everybody's been hearing a lot more about CBN and CBG and how good it is, and but I still feel like even somebody like me, I feel like I could talk about it, but I'm really not that educated. I'm not like a scientist, so I can't tell you exactly what it's good for. I read articles on what it's good for and this and that, but I think there just needs to be a lot more research done on the cannabinoids and the terpenes.
Yeah, I think we're just starting to figure it out. And there needs to be so much more, research on it, like you're saying. But with the CBN and the CBG stuff, maybe I'll do an episode about that stuff sometime. That might be nice for the listeners. But it's like you said, we're just starting to figure it out. We're just starting to scratch the surface of this. And to be honest, I think like we're just starting to scratch the surface of the plant. I think that there's so much more benefit that we're going to end up finding out that in like 100 years from now, people are going to be like, you couldn't fathom that, cannabis is being used, for this, in this manner for this disease state.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like they're coming out with new THCOs and THCPs, and this THCO is 10 times stronger than this Delta 9, and it's just getting a little confusing. I'm glad the research is being done, but I feel like some of it isn't necessarily for the right reasons. They're like just trying to find another Delta something that they can sell to people in adult use, And so I just want it to be the right kind of research. And I think terpenes and cannabinoids are definitely what we need to be looking in at this point.
Yeah, it's the right kind of research, and like maybe we should, I should do a whole episode on that, like how to look at studies and to see who, because like one of the biggest things is who is the study funded by, and why is this study being done?
So true.
And a lot of that time, a lot of the stuff, the answer to that question is because they want to sell a product and they want to prove something, that may not even be beneficial, or maybe it is. We just don't know. They just want to prove it so they can sell a product.
Yeah. It's like trying to sell you sunscreen on a hot day.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. It's not, it's not hard.
Not going to lather that on me.
Right. No, exactly. No chance,
I'll
baby. No
take that
chance.
hat instead.
I'll take the hat. Right. I'll take the water. You
Yeah.
know, people always say to me like, because maybe because I don't drink and all this, but it's because I hydrate. Oh, you have nice skin. You have nice skin, Steve. They always say that, and it's like, well, yeah, because I drink a shit ton of water. I don't drink alcohol, and I take care of my body. So like when it goes into the sun, I don't. Like I said, I don't need to worry about that stuff. I mean, if I'm
Nothing
gonna
really to worry about.
yeah, nothing really worry about. If I'm going to be outside all day, bareback, getting it going on the beach, which
Yeah.
I do like to do.
Yeah.
I'll throw some natural sunscreen on there. Some blocker. Some minerals. But
Sure.
I won't. The chemicals, the chemical sun blocker is just
Banana boat. Oh, get out of here.
take it and throw it as far as possible away from you, or into a trash can.
Into a trash can.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a good idea.
So I know that we've talked quite a bit about cannabis. But the next thing that's coming into Maine, I know I know Mark's Organics won't be going to try to get into New Hampshire or whatever. They're going to stay in their lane in medical and in Maine. But psilocybin is coming.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. They tried to get it last year on some bill, and it did not pass. And it's coming again this spring, and so we don't know if it's going to pass or not. But I think a lot of the people in the cannabis industry are trying to prepare for that market. They want to be ready. They don't want to be the last one behind. And I think there's going to be a huge market for psilocybin. I think it can, as the little bit of research that has been done has been mind blowing, really, how much it can benefit some people as far as depression or anxiety, PTSD, all kinds of stuff.
End of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to get
Jeez.
my mom. My mom's dying of cancer right now. I'm trying to get her to do the mushrooms with me, and she's not having it yet. But we'll see. We'll keep working on her.
Sorry to hear that. My mother died of cancer.
Oh, damn, bro, it's brutal, right?
It
It
is
just sucks.
hard to go through. Sucks. But
She got brain and lung. So it's like, it's
mm,
great that it's amazing that she's with us for as long as she is. Love you, mom. It's so cool because like she got to meet my son and spend some time with him, and maybe she'll make it to my wedding this summer.
it's awesome.
But she, a cool thing, she threw her to chemotherapy. She was struggling with eating, and I was able to give her some edibles, give her some Dr. BeeWell honey, and
It's awesome.
yeah, it's really really helped her, regulate and makes her feel a little bit more comfortable, and helps her definitely with the appetite regulation.
That's just
Th-
going to motivate you more in the future. So God bless her.
Yeah, man, that's it, dude. Like I said, it's coming from somebody who's already been through it. I'm so motivated for that. For the to get people the good, the good healthy Dr. Bewell brand. That's what we're all about, is just providing the best best quality products out there. But the psilocybin movement that's one of the reasons why I moved to Maine. Was so I could start, easiest barriers to enter for cannabis. I could get into the cannabis market, but the long term vision is about the psilocybin and about what it can do for people. Like you said, depression, anxiety, PTSD, end of life. And that's just the stuff that's like, we just say that stuff because that's the stuff that we really need fucking help with right now,
Yeah,
because people are
exactly.
suffering so fucking bad.
Just trying to get out of this depression here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right,
We're
exactly.
depressed because we're in a depression.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so it's it can. I think that as long if it's used appropriately in terms of it's it's guided into into society the right way. It's shepherded in appropriately. Uh, People are given access, meaning that it's not like it'd be great if it could go the same way as Maine medical cannabis, where people had true access to this. I do get worried that the pharmaceutical companies are going to come in and try to patent all this stuff, because like you said, the data that we're seeing from the studies that have been done, it's incredible stuff,
Absolutely.
stuff we've never even seen before. um People being, just really, really starting to heal from, the PTSD studies that are out there. People healing from such traumatic experiences, the end of life studies out there that people are, before so, so scared, so afraid to go into that next stage in life. And no, they're ready for it now. They're fully encompassed. They're present in it. It's just the fact that we've been using this medicine for millennia. Since we as human beings have existed, we have been using psilocybin mushrooms, and it's super sad that it's got to the point of where it did, where I can't even tell my mom thinks it's gonna make her go on this crazy trip where she's gonna end up somewhere else and not
Well,
be
she
this.
might, depending on how much she eats.
And that is very true. You better believe it. But I think that they think that long term, like they're going to have long term negative effects,
Got it.
when that's almost never
Yeah,
I
no.
don't, I've never been the case. I don't, I've never spoken to anyone. I've never seen a case study where that's the case, unless it's some bullshit propaganda. Um, but it's just the medicine is in the plant, and it's the knowing that we have access to it right now, and it's creating this renaissance, is like, it makes me be grateful that I have a degree in pharmacy, and that maybe I'll be a person who can help people understand this. And just like you've been a pioneer in the cannabis space here, to same as same for me in the in the psilocybin space.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of research and development need to go into it, and I think these fruiting bodies have the potential to heal a lot of people that are in pain and that have to go day to day through with problems that they just can't seem to get rid of. And I think these are going to be a huge help, just like cannabis. I think it's going to fit right in with the caregiver medical industry in Maine. I think there's going to be a lot of good things coming from psilocybin and a lot of people getting the help that they needed years ago.
Yeah, I love that. And so Mark's Organics is positioning themselves to be a part of that help.
Definitely. Yep, we're preparing ourselves and we're trying to talk to people about it. Um, but yep, so far that's all we're doing. Just talking to people and preparing.
Yeah, just talking and preparing. That's all we're doing now. Because it is coming. That things like this sometimes take time, and but there's a lot of groups that I'm a part of up here in Maine that are really starting to push this forward, and it's the only way. So that it will happen.
Definitely. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't take mushrooms to cleanse my body or my mind or organize my thoughts. I took mushrooms to get fucked up because I wanted to escape my reality, to alter my mind. But then weirdly enough, I felt like $1,000,000 the next day, and I'm just like, "What the hell's going on here?" And then every time I did it, I never was hungover. I always seemed to have clear thoughts and feel good the next day, and it would last the day after, and it was bizarre. I never really knew what was going on, and then, a few years ago, I started getting into microdosing, and I really never looked back. I think there's really something to say about microdosing these. It's not like you're taking a bunch of mushrooms in the morning and you're fucked up all day. It's you're taking a very little amount and you don't feel anything. You don't really feel any different. The only thing you feel is like some euphoric feeling in the back that's driving you, that's motivating you, that's organizing what's your priorities and what makes you feel good and why you're living. And it's just a bunch of good thoughts going through, and I don't think there's really any negative side effects in my personal opinion, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, man. The it almost wants to make me cry because the next day, right? So all these drugs out there that people take, coke and opiates and all this stuff like that, you do it and then you want more and like that's how I knew. That's how I knew about the mushrooms. Okay? Because when I was a young kid, like I said, I'd taken them to get fucked up, I was super nervous about it before. I thought I was going to lose my mind, all this stuff, My buddy, the person I trust says, "Yeah, take this, blah blah blah." I take them, percep- perception change 100%, and I think that's the little voice in the back, it's allowing you to see different perception, it's allowing you to see different things, and all those thoughts that I had instantly, were changed. And then the next day, they got so much were reinforced. I didn't think about it. I didn't want to do it again. I was just enthralled by this, like so taken aback by this unbelievable feeling of happiness that then I started saying, okay, what's the half life of this drug? Is it still in my body? It's been 2 weeks now. I'm I was deep in pharmacy school at this point. Is this drug still in my body? How am I still having these good feelings from this? No, man, it's not. It's because you rework some stuff in your brain. You had perception change. You were able to free yourself of some of that anxiety. You felt better.
Yeah, it's crazy what it does to your brain. I mean, the neuroscience behind it is it hasn't even been tapped. So I can't talk too much about it. I didn't go to college or anything, but I do know that I want to keep taking that those microdoses because
Now,
it makes me a better person. I feel like
how often do you do it?
each morning, and then I take like a couple days off, but I take 0.15 grams in the morning.
Dude, I love it. I love it because what Mark is saying here, ladies and gentlemen, is he's taking such a small dose. Like people are, normally when you're saying, when you're having like visuals of, visual hallucinations, you would have to be taking like, upwards of 3 grams, likely even more than that, to start getting some of those feelings. And it's all dose dependent. And so if you're taking this 0.15, dose every single day, Mark, he said you don't actually feel any different, right?
I don't feel really any different. I mean, definitely no different seeing anything or any visuals, that's for sure. But the only thing that's different is the way my brain is working, and it's definitely for the better.
Yeah, definitely for the better, definitely for, reorganizing and, that's just been my experience too, 100%. And
Yeah, it's almost like something I just kind of roll with the punches, I don't get as frustrated. I can just kind of let things roll over that would usually bug me or that I would be dwelling about or worrying about later. All the worries just kind of disappear and you just seem to be having a good day and your priorities are in line, which is ideal.
yeah, I think it's perception. You know,
Definitely.
you look at one thing one way. I couldn't solve this problem, and it was causing me so much anxiety and so much stress. But the reason you couldn't solve that problem was because of the way you were looking at it. And the mushrooms, they do, the psilocybin creates some type of change in your head where, you say, oh, I can solve this problem just like this. And then you solve it. And then you reinforce that, with the confidence that you get from completing that task.
It's crazy. It's literally rewiring your brain.
Literally rewiring your brain. And that's a giddy up.
Yeah, it is. Giddy up.
Giddy up. So we want to make sure that the pharmaceutical companies aren't trying to hide this from people, and that that's what this show's all about. So, we're gonna have tons of content out there about about psilocybin, about the movements that are happening, in the different jurisdictions. Depending on where you live, most places it's starting to become at least decriminalized. So there's opportunities for you to try it, and that's a giddy up.
Yeah, just don't overdo it, and make sure you're with somebody who's semi-educated.
Yeah, oh, 100%. That's the thing. Be with somebody who's semi-educated, somebody who's done it before. You don't want to go into this alone. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's the same with cannabis, really. You don't want to overdo it. I would hate for a new user, to smoke an entire joint. They're probably going to get too high and never want to do it again. That's pretty much the worst case scenario. So, I mean, when somebody comes and says they've never tried cannabis before, the last thing you want to do is give them 1,000 milligram chocolate bar. You want them to have a good experience. You want them to do it again. You want them to come back, not because you want their money. You want them to come back because you want them to have a good time. You want them to do something good for their body.
Yeah, you want them to come back because you put your life into this business, about trying to help people feel better. Sure, you're a capitalist too. Everyone needs to make money,
That's right.
but you put your life into this. You could make money other ways too. You could still be doing organic landscaping.
Yeah, exactly. I
Right.
could.
So you put your life into this, so you can pass that forward, and people, and that's why I think that your brand is great, because like you said, you guys try to teach people how to grow. If you go to Mark's shop on State Road in the summertime, you'll see a tree, a plant outside
Sure.
that is growing, that that they're trying to show people and educate them. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun. A lot of people like taking pictures with the plants and asking questions and telling us their experience with the plants that they bought that they're growing, and it's super fun talking about that stuff. And I can always learn something too. I learn something every single day. It doesn't have to be from a teacher or somebody smarter. It could be from a homeless guy over there or my daughter. You just have to be a good listener and care for people.
Hell yeah, I love the sound of that. Be a good listener and care for people. I think that today has been an awesome show. Coming with Mark Quinn from Mark's Organix. We've talked about a ton of stuff today. About cannabis and how that it needs to be sourced appropriately. You need people who care about growing it. That's it. When you're sourcing your cannabis, look into people who actually care about it. They care about their process. They're people who care about what they're putting into their own bodies. If you want some great cannabis, definitely check out, Mark's shop over on State Road and the second one is going to be opening up. Definitely come out where, Mark's going to be, they'll be here for our party on 3/11.
Absolutely.
Yeah, giddy up. So we're going to be having a blast. So, come on down for that. We can, definitely celebrate and, answer some questions and just, keep furthering this education that we are, trying to put forth on this show and, through businesses like Mark. So I just want to say thanks so much, dude, for coming on today. It's been such a fucking giddy up. Like I just, I can't wait to have you on again. And we can get into some, some more stuff. But it's really been awesome, and I appreciate you so much.
The pleasure's mine, Steve. Thank you very much. And yeah, I look forward. I'd love to come back and chat and talk about everything naughty.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta have a naughty episode. 100%, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we'll get a little more naughty.
Exactly. We're gonna get naughtier on the next one, for sure. Talk about some things that that we'd like to talk about a little bit more. Now that you guys you know Mark and you're getting to know me a little bit more. So thanks so much for for listening. I hope that everyone has a great week and that you all continue to be well.
Bless up.
Giddy up.